Okay, today we want to get back to those passing chords and let's find a creative way to put them into the blues. So that's what we're going to do right now. Our chord progression was E, and then we could go chromatic to E flat, to D, and so on. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to start with a simple substitution for these, or a way to insert them into a blues with a nice sound. And so we're going to be taking our E sharp 9 and we're going to call it B flat 7 13. And then we're going to go to an E flat 7, right? 9, but we're going to call that A7. And specifically, that's going to be A7 with sharp 9 and flat 13. And then we're going to go to our regular D7 with 13 and 9. And then our good old G7 with 9 and 13. So those are our chords, and we're going to put them in this way. Or let's take a look at our blues form and play this with our magic pointer. So here we go. So at the end there, I put the flat 9 one in for the G and switched things around right there. And I had my trusty drummer so that I could sync up with the magic pointer, because you know the technology is so amazing these days that we can do things like this. A metronome and a finger and a wetboard. Wow. So we're really moving along in time and history here. The point is, you can put those things in any way you want, anywhere you want, but this is a standard insert into the blues, a standard insert, and then at the end we crunch that into the two measures, and that is called a turnaround. Now, what you might want to do, since you know all of that information and have seen it on paper or on the board and you've felt it where it goes, then you might want to watch that a few times so that you get that sound, and then you can watch the overhead version of that and see the voicings that I played. And I tried to stay simple. I tried to stay with things we've talked about all along and just put the rhythm in. So there's a little bit of anticipation, a little jazz feel, but I stayed really close to the things that we've talked about. And sometimes I was doubling notes in the right hand just so you could see everything. And also remember, like I always say, it's not a problem to double. It's nice to add. You have 10 fingers, they say, so use all of them. But sometimes doubling is not a bad thing, and it doesn't sound that horrible. So actually, it doesn't sound horrible at all. So the other side of that is, as I always say, you want to double your voicings in learning them, because then you can have notes to improvise with or play with when you solo. So let's take a quick look at that idea so we always remember to do that. Here's the B flat 7. That's our A. That's a nice, simple way to get through these things. Here's the G and the C. Those are notes right there. Or I could do the A flat. And if you sped that up, it might sound really cool. So those are things you can transcribe from the video and have them for yourself. But those are good ideas, and you can't miss because they're chord tones. So you always want to think about that with your voicing. Use the voicing notes in your right hand to solo with, because it can be really cool sounding, and you're supporting them with a nice voicing. Now we could always do two-handed things with a lower sound. I didn't want to get too far out because I want to help you get these chords that we've been dealing with for a couple of videos into action, into the blues. So now that we're doing that, we can take a look at this again one more time and see what it sounds like with a different feel. And let's do that now. So there you go. That's a short version just to show you what can happen there. And I want to remind you about those chord tones we talked about. So in the blues, I should say the chord symbols, in blues or in all the jazz charts, a lot of the fake books, they'll just call it C7. So for example, on our blues chart, we had C7, we had F7, G7, we had a D7, and I played sharp 11 on that because it's a really cool sound and very common in jazz to make the two chord a dominant chord, and if you do that, then it becomes a Lydian dominant. So we've talked a little about the Lydian dominant when we were talking about the 4 chord, and I'm going to get more into that in the next video in terms of how to apply chord scales and things to this particular setting. So, but for now, I wanted to explain that one weird note and why did it sound good and why did I play it. So that was a G sharp, and that's the sharp 11 on the D7. But it doesn't say that in the chord change. But I'm also playing 7, 9, and I had 13 with the B. So those things aren't indicated in the chord symbols. Those are things that people who've played a while automatically do, in particular jazz musicians. So once you learn these formulas and those formula voicings, you have a lot you can do, and it's really up to you. The sky's the limit. See you next time.